What is a system? When I was polling people for the definition on today's topic, I found their responses to be quite broad and quite diverse. So then I went to my trusted source, Google, to see what they might have to say. And this was by far the best and most universal definition. And it comes from Neil Patel. If you don't know who he is a great blogger and marketing entrepreneur. So you'll definitely want to chime into him. He defines a system as a method of solving a repeated business issue or activity in a strategic way and an effortless way. This truly captured the essence of what we're going to be talking about today and my belief in what a system is. A system addresses a specific activity, problem, or issue, and with practice, it makes it automatic. You don't even have to think about it. So then you can use your brain power for other things. It becomes the set process and set routine for your business. Once the system is created and put in place, that element of the business should function effortlessly and not require a lot of time and effort. So essentially, it's your recipe for how you want your activities and your duties to be carried out. So standard operating procedures and/or best practices for your business. So systems build the habits, the routine and the practice that will be performed day in and day out. And it can be applied universally right across every business, every organization, and your personal lives. So what does a system look like? Systems come in many forms, and they can be checklists, flowcharts, process maps, videos, step-by-step guides, manuals, just to name a few. So just so that I can get a better read of who's joining us on the call, I am going to be launching several polls throughout my presentation to take your temperature and get some feedback so that I can provide you solid nuggets in addition and address some of the concerns that you may have. So we're going to launch the first poll, and this one I'm going to ask you to do a self-assessment and rate yourself on a scale of 0 to 100 as to where you are in your business, your corporation, your not-for-profit organization, and how do you rate yourself with respect to having systems in place and running your business successfully. So if you could just enter which category fits you, that would be ideal. And I'm not seeing the results yet. So the results are not showing on my screen. So I will ask the moderator to highlight the results.
Давайте дамо ще трошки часу нашим учасникам.
So let us give a bit of time to our participants to think about it for a second, and let us give our system a little bit of time for them to calculate the results properly.
Oh, here we go. Okay, so we're in the midstream. So, only a few 100%, so congratulations, that's amazing. But most of us, it looks like we have some work to do. And just so you know, systems are never done. You're always going to re-plug in, retweak. So that's great. I'm glad you participated. So from the onset, and as we work through the material today, we will clearly see that a system is so much more than just a how-to guide. It is the key foundation to any successful business. So I wanted to paint the picture of what a day in the life of living in a business without systems might look like. So bear with me as I share this story. So you operate a business and you find yourself in constant state of react mode, constantly solving problems and putting out fires. You put out one fire to have the other one blazing from behind you. Things are not going according to plan. Staff and customers are not ideally happy, and they tell you so. You are constantly getting asked questions and being interrupted. What you thought was clear is clearly not. The business is chaotic and disorganized. You and your business are in a constant state of flux. Again, you are always in react mode, and there is no set way of doing things. Everyone seems to have their own method. And at times, it feels like things are falling apart. Continual errors and miscommunications happen. Tensions and stress levels are high, and miscommunications are becoming the norm. Staff or management and the team appear to have gone rogue. It appears that everyone is doing their own thing. Customers and staff find loopholes and workarounds. You continue to find problems after the fact, or they are merely dismissed as non-events, and that's a problem. Running the clock, there is never enough hours in the day. We all have the same 24 hours, and even though you are managing more than enough, balls are being dropped. You are putting in 10-plus-hour days, and you find that there are more things on your to-do list at the end than when you started. And the things that you started with are still on that to-do list. You continue to work longer hours without reaping the benefits and rewards. Sometimes it feels like you're doing a dance, going 3 steps forward only to go 5 steps back. Every day you have the best of intentions of working on the business and taking it to the next level, but you get sucked back in, fixing a problem, an error, a mix-up, or insert the blank to today's problem of the day. The day is filled with problem solving instead of strategy and leadership functions. Working 60 hours a week and you just feel you're not making headway and or a profit. So essentially, you are the business. Without systems, you do not own a business. You are the business. And most times, the business actually owns you. So when I look at a day in the life of most business owners and entrepreneurs, I really do read the unsaid said. After I hear the story and the chain of events, I usually lead with the question, are you busy being busy, or are you busy being productive? When that question hits the airwaves, it is usually followed by a gasp, a period of silence, and sometimes even tears. The entrepreneur may not give a verbal answer, but their face really does say it all. It's really a small detail, but it makes a big difference. So I wish we were in a live event that I could see everyone's hands and see your emotion when I shared that story. I know that many entrepreneurs are struggling. They have their game face on, and they're just trying to get through the day. And with that, I know that story because I was that entrepreneur. As highlighted, I've owned chains of coffee shops, construction companies, etc. And I was that entrepreneur early on. I was stuck in a vortex, always working harder, striving to work smarter, but never ever getting there. Living in that state left me absolutely exhausted and depleted as I tried to improve my business and make it work. Big distinction there. That chaos drained my brain from creativity, effective problem solving, and most importantly, fun. That's why we all open our businesses, is to actually enjoy what we do. But without systems, things get messy. So something had to change. And that's where systems came into play. Systems are the ultimate method of turning a struggling business into a well-oiled machine. It took almost burnout before my aha moment. And I know I'm not alone. Being a business advisor now for 13 years, I hear and see that story all the time. And it doesn't have to be that way. This is a momentary phase, and with systems, we can change that. So sadly, without systems, I know that conversation will be the exact same conversation that I'll have next year with my entrepreneurs. So the one thing that needs to happen is things need to change. You and your business need to change. So that brings me back to the question. If we know systems are a good thing and important, why is it that not all businesses are systemized yet? So the reasons, excuses, and stories I hear, and I'm going to launch a poll, and I want your feedback as to what your story is. What's holding you back? You indicated that you haven't totally systemized your empire yet, but why is that? So if we can launch the poll, poll number 3, that would be great. So some of the stories I hear is they don't see value. They don't have time. They're just too busy. They don't know where to start. It's not my job. It's too complicated. Really, my problems aren't that big enough, so systems aren't important. I don't have the degree or background, so I can't do it. So if you can take a few moments and choose all that apply. And we'll just take a few moments for it to register. So these are the conversations that I have daily. People will make up stories as to why they don't have time, as to why it's too hard, but I'm going to, hopefully by the end of this session, we'll find a way to do it. So the excuses, stories, and reasons will no longer be part of our conversation. So I'm just waiting for the poll tally to come up. So while we're waiting, one of my objectives today is to shed some light on the fact that no matter where you are, who you are, I can identify ways to make things better. Actually, we can make things much better by implementing systems. People laugh because my brain just automatically goes there. Once you build the habit, this will become so easy and you'll wonder why it took you so long. Okay, I see all the results. Thank you for weighing in. I don't know where to start is usually the one piece of the puzzle. You do not need a degree or a background. You don't need to be a project manager. It's easier maybe. I had my commerce degree, but that helped me to a point, but every business is unique and different, and you, the business owners, are the experts. So you already have the knowledge in your brains. We just need to take it out and put it on paper. The element of never having enough time, we need to better schedule those 24 hours that we're gifted in a day. So this is perfect. Thank you very much. So my question to the entrepreneur after I do the poll in my office is, I appreciate all of those stories and those reasons, but I have to ask you, what is the cost of doing nothing? And again, there's usually another big gulp because they already know that they're struggling, they're challenged, they're not happy, the business is not what it was supposed to be. So the reality is, without systems, the insanity and the craziness will just continue. Costs will continue to rise every year, and they'll probably go higher. So if I looked at your business and then I looked at your financial with you doing nothing, you're probably on a downward spiral, meaning that you're working harder and realizing less profits. So something's got to give. So systems increase your chance of survival and are a real sanity saver. Systems are not a nice to have, they are a necessity. Most importantly, systems allow you to create a sustainable and scalable business. Without systems, your ability to grow the business will be marginalized. You will continue to use up and exhaust resources that are available to you. You will likely make small jumps, but limited giant leaps. A systemless business stunts your growth. Without systems, you are actually missing out on so many opportunities. If you have a business without systems, any increase in activity or demand will only magnify the problems. You will not have a remedy, and in the end, it will cost you more money. Time, energy, and money are your limited resources. And the absolute reality is a business without systems is always at the edge of spiraling out of control. And I live this, so I know it happens in my world, and I see it with my other entrepreneurs. So I'm hoping that some of this is resonating with you as well. Remembering that common sense is not common practice. The number one lesson, or the first lesson they taught us in business school, is never assume. That is a dangerous thing. What you think is obvious is not apparent to all, and a lot of people just don't know what you're thinking. So no one can think or see exactly what you do. As I started off, what is a system? Everyone in the room would have gave me their own interpretation. So everyone has their own definition and way of doing things. A system allows you to create a common good and a common way. And as business owners, leaders, bosses, it is your job to connect the dots for your business. So when I do audits in a business, it's the worst thing to be a business advisor and walk into someone's business, because instantly I can tell if they have systems or not and where they're bleeding money. Because without systems, the foundation is broken. So it's critical to get all your ideas out of your brain and put them on paper. Ideas, thoughts, methods, everything. Get into the habit of documenting everything, and best off in real time. Never miss out on an idea, a trick, or a piece of knowledge. Another reality check is In business, people come and go. Everyone in the business is replaceable. And that even means you as the business owner, which is sometimes a very sobering thought. Every time someone leaves, they leave with priceless information, knowledge and know-how, and a way of doing things that was maybe working. So every time someone leaves without a system in place, you are reinventing the wheel. It takes longer to onboard the next person. There are going to be problems and mistakes. And essentially, you're starting your business or that particular element over again. Often we learn that lesson a few times before we actually set up a system. So think about when you lost your last person. Was everything documented and the next person could just swoop in and get it done? Chances are not, unless you were the 100%ers that responded into the poll. It is about building a system that works and gets replicatable results. The goal is to systemize everything in your business and then train the people. Build the model and then roll out the strategy. Take the guesswork out of every role, every activity, and every engagement. So another disclaimer, systemizing your business is not about creating a system for system's sake. You should never create a document, stroke it off the list, put it in a binder, and put it on the shelf. It's kind of like the business plan. It always needs to be revamped and retooled. So do your systems. It is not about creating a bureaucracy or adding layers to the business. It is about creating and developing a way to do business that is effective and rewarding on all levels. Creating a system forces you to really look at every element of your business, and systems development makes you really think through every process and affirms why you do what you do and how you do it. A systemized business provides you a rich understanding of what it takes to truly run your business. Every element is uncovered, evaluated, assessed, and then we look at how everything fits together. In business, nothing is ever in isolation. A business is really like a fine tapestry where all the threads interweave, intertwine, interconnect. And then you see by the tethering of all those threads how your business becomes that fortress and that empire with a strong foundation. When there's ebbs and flows or disturbances in the system, you go unshaken. So if that hasn't convinced you why you need systems, I wanted to outline some of the benefits. So in business, we set yearly goals and targets, but do we have a strong strategic and tactical plan and systems to get us to that end goal on a daily, weekly, monthly business cycle? Goals and targets set the direction, but it is the systems that set your progress. So I'm not going to lie to you, developing systems does take time. I had just a coffee shop. It's a simple model, but it took me 2 years. It was an existing business that was run at arm's length without any real systems. I was working hard in the business and building my systems at the end of the day. I hired a business coach and he watched me and my business. And at one point he stopped me and said, "Colleen, when are you going to put down the mask? You are running 1,000,000 miles and going nowhere." And I was like, whoa, okay. And then he said, "Colleen, if you get hit by a Mack truck or a bus tomorrow, your business is only worth the chattels, the tired assets that you have." From that moment, he reminded me how important having systems in place so I could actually work on the system. So it does take time, but the time up front pays off hundreds and thousands of hours on the back end. So now I want to dive deeper into the benefits. So we're going to look at when we systemize, what is the true impact on your business? So the first element is about getting consistency and quality. With systems, you engineer and outline how tasks are to be completed. Every role, responsibility, duty, expectation is clearly outlined. Everyone will be playing from the same playbook. The consistency in approach and methods ensure consistent, high-quality results. When rolling out a new way of doing things, a checklist is a great tool. This allows you to ensure that all the new steps and protocols are taken and that new habits are activated with ease. Once we develop systems, everything becomes trackable and traceable. With every step outlined, you quickly source and locate problems and trace them back to the elements that either caused them or have been impacted. This is a piece of the puzzle that makes the unknown known. Rather than searching for the needle in the haystack and spending hours going, how did that happen? You have a clear roadmap and outline of all the variables at play and makes troubleshooting a really quick endeavor. So you're not exhausting hours and hours. You quickly can troubleshoot, find the problem, and implement a solution. With the trackability, another layer is that accountability. When you have systems in place, everyone's attention to detail and performance improves. The team now realizes that everything is monitored and tracked. It's not about being big brother, but it is about having a clear know-how that when you show up, everything that you do matters, not only in your one role, but to other people in the organization. Any shortcomings or stellar results will be tracked to the source. The best benefit for me was the systems became self-policing. Everyone knows that how the elements work. There is no need to micromanage. I was the master at that. So you never have to always monitor and manage somebody's work because you have all the checks and balances in place. Thanks to the systems, everyone knows how to do everything. And if somebody has to come in and play out that role without knowing, they can at least do it with some know-how. Everyone is accountable to each other, and there is now full transparency. Now we get everything running smoothly. Now we increase and improve efficiency. Building systems is a continuous improvement. As I highlighted, it's never done. We seek out 1-degree improvements in all areas. As you apply hundreds of small improvements, accumulated results happen faster. Inefficiency, waste of time, redundancies, and the need to rework are no longer part of the equation. With systems, everything is smoother, faster, and frictionless. Customers want and employees want a smooth day with minor hiccups. With that, productivity and performance increases. A system looks at everything and asks, how do I make it better? Again, I'm reducing redundancies. I'm making sure that daily activities just become part of your DNA and you do it without thinking and with high level of attention. The business runs seamlessly with minor malfunctions and meltdowns. the team actually gets to focus on the larger and the higher value tasks. Creativity and innovation returns. The team shifts into being productive and being in proactive mode than in react mode. Chaos bogs down brain power. So now we've mitigated that. The team is no longer living moment by moment, but playing the longer game. Teams now focus on more value-added activities, which naturally increase profit, and they're extremely focused and happier. And the last element is, the second last element is scalability. A system focuses on the process. A system model is built with the needs and the requirements of the business. The system can work to achieve any set outcome. It is not person dependent, because remember, people come and go. The right skills are assessed for every position, and then we put the right person in that, the matrix. Again, systems and process are evaluated at every stage. So when we do that, onboarding, hiring, and integrating new people into the culture, into the business, and into the production of our products and services just happens more effectively. Systems are the strong foundation which holds the business together. It allows you to create synergies and apply the power of leveraging. The last piece of the puzzle, we all work so incredibly hard in our businesses to build wealth, because that's our retirement package. A systemized business allows you and your business to not be dependent on others and or yourself. By developing your own system or business in a box or a franchise model, your business becomes more attractive and valuable to potential buyers. So let's play out a common scenario that comes into my office. Again, I see all the time, I assist entrepreneurs that are getting ready to transition their business, sell to an employee, just sell their business, etc. And they've done their best effort to make it all work. In this scenario, they've been very busy working in the business and have not fully documented all of the processes. When the business remains tied to you and you have to make the connections to make it work, your business is compromised. If the new potential business owner cannot operate it without you, all you get is the money for the tired assets, like my story with my coffee shop. So you might get some money for the assets and a little bit for the goodwill if you have a great marketing campaign, great brand established, a great website, and a client list. But you are leaving money on the table if you do not have systems in place. If everything remains linked and tied to you, the business are going to see that as a risk and question the ongoing sustainability. And that actually drives the price down. Conversely, if you develop systems, have everything in a binder, so a business in the box, the buyer instantly has an improved level of trust in your business. Full disclosure on all levels goes a long way. Business, if they need to apply for a loan, they can take all of your business binders and showcase that it's a viable business opportunity. And they know from day one that they can actually unlock the doors the very next day, run it, hopefully still be profitable, and then layer their changes into the mix. So there's no hiccups, and you've done all the homework for them. That's exactly how I sold my coffee shop. I had 5 binders on the desk, my complete brain, again, it was just a coffee shop, It was profitable, but that owner, I sold business and building and all of my systems, and I got a heck of a lot more money for the complete package than when I would have sold it maybe 4 years earlier. And I would have just received restaurant equipment, 10 cents on the dollar. Anyone can open up a coffee shop. But with my systems, they actually had an empire that they could continue. And when they went for a loan, it went so quick because everything was already done for them. I had a business plan, projections, and all of the systems. All they had to do was sign the paperwork and qualify for the loan. So that again primes the brain as to why you need those systems, short-term and long-term. So when I develop systems, okay, there's a slide mix up here. Okay, here we go. 3 brains are better than 1. In business, nothing is in isolation. So that's one of the main points. When I look at developing systems for my own businesses or my clients, I instinctively apply a 3-brain approach. So looking at my business through 3 different sets of eyes. So what does that look like? It's getting a different vantage point and seeing how those people walking through my business impacts the way I develop my systems. So what are those 3 perspectives? Number 1 is the perspective of the customer. How does the customer use or walk or interact with every element of my business? Online and offline. Again, I want to create a seamless experience for them so that it is easy for them to engage with me. So in this mindset, I'm going to look at my target markets. Who are my ideal client personas and walk through the business? So it could be based on age, location, gender, and or generational. How a baby boomer walks through your business is very different than a millennial. So I might have to adapt and change my systems depending on those scenarios. Mindset number 2, my employees and my team. All team members will be living out my brand and living out all of my systems. And they'll be engaging with number 1 mindset, my customers. So how do my employees impact my business? How do they manage their roles and responsibilities and convey those messages to everyone that they touch? 3rd brain is you, the business owner, the leader. So what does the business need to do? How does it need to function? And how do you need to interact effectively with your management team, your employees, and your customers? So when I'm developing systems, I have 3 brains sitting on my shoulders, and every time I develop it, I make sure that all 3 of them work. So sorry, there was a mix-up on the slide deck. So what systems do we need to have in place? So, and what needs to be systemized? Well, it's all of your business. It's everything. One of the most simple systems that I highlight is it can be as simple as someone picking up the phone. How people engage with your business from the moment they call you. It should be scripted. So when I owned my business and I took a little time off and I actually called my business, one time I called and I knew I dialed the right number. So I called the line and then I got a, yep. And I was like, oh, excuse me, did I dial the right number? Is this someone's residence? And then my staff Tico said, no, this is Roca Jacks. And I was like, oh, okay, this is Colleen, the business owner. We are never going to answer the phone that way. Since that moment, because it was shame on me because I didn't set up a system and I assumed everyone knew how to answer the phone. Now it was good morning, good afternoon, name of the business, Tico speaking, name of the employee, how can I help you? Because the next conversation, the customer actually wants to know the person's name that they're talking to. They want to know that they actually connected with the right business. And then we can have a conversation. But again, common sense is not common practice. So as simple as that. Now we can break into the categories. So on this slide, I have a number of categories and just some ideas. We'll talk in basic format as to what might be under each component. So we want to start off, where do I start? You want to start off with one thing and move on. So prioritize this list based on the business needs. Depending on your situation, you can start with an area that might make the most impact on your business quickly. Or you could commence in the area that poses the most challenges. Extinguish that blaze and then move forward. So it doesn't matter where you start, just start somewhere. So the sooner you develop systems, the better. The perfect time to do it is before you even start, before you even hire your first employee. And some people will say, Colleen, I don't have time for that. Well, again, it's going to cost you if you don't. So if you are a newbie entrepreneur, right now is the time to do this. Develop the manuals and set the tone from the onset. For those of you who have already launched and are in growth mode and or maybe thinking about selling down the road, well, this too is the perfect time. Hit pause, get organized, and reinforce your foundation. One thing with COVID, we saw that everything had to adapt and change. So many business owners, because they had to close temporarily, potentially, actually got time to reboot their systems and then layer it with, if this happens, again, COVID, and we have to shut down, how am I going to impact all of these operations? So in all of these departments, product and service, this would include the engineering, developing, manufacturing of your product and service. This might resemble a recipe book, detailing all of the raw inputs, materials, a complete supplier listing as to where I get what, how much I buy, how much lead time they need, etc., and the cost of each input. So again, if anyone has any questions on product and service development or training manuals to actually build the products and services, that's the binder they're actually going to pull off. The next element is customer acquisition and development. This covers all the details of the customer experience. Again, I'm walking through each customer's shoes. I'm tracking their progress and seeing the results. So there's a so before they even get to you, maybe they're dabbling on your website, the during, when you actually have them in your space, and then the post. So how do you engage with them after they leave? The interesting point here is 90% of brands and businesses never follow up with their customers. If you do this one thing and have some sort of post feedback or connection with your customers, you're already a superstar. You will further distinguish yourself from your competition just by placing a call, follow-up email, or getting them from going online and taking them offline to your store for a live engagement, or in your store face to face, and then getting them to plug in with your Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn, so you can constantly do a trickle of some marketing and information for them. Marketing and promotion. Setting policies and procedures in place so that every dollar that you spend on marketing has an impact on your business and the employees and the customers. Planning out a full marketing calendar every month with every different platform and what your objectives are is a process. It is a system. It's a method of running that marketing department. It sets clear benchmarks, KPIs, goals, objectives for everything that you do. Every message that goes out, how do you want it to stick with the business owner, your employees who are modeling the brand, and the customers? What do you want them to think about you? So that's all in the messaging. Sales and service management. How do you sell your products and services? How do your salespeople, or you if you are that salesperson, how do you convey that message? Again, having scripts so that you know everybody's playing from the same playbook. Knowing what your brand promise is and knowing how to communicate to the customer what they can expect from you. Be clear on your promises, your guarantees, your warranties, and your refund policies. By being clear on all of these expectations, the customer is now going to use this as a meter stick for their experience with you and give you feedback and reviews. And you want great reviews. Even if you got maybe not a nice review, this is a great opportunity for you to monitor that, see if there was a problem, see if it's a problem of one or many, and then set up a system to troubleshoot that. So make sure the return policy is effortless and offers solutions or alternatives that might be within your company or recommending someone else. But when you do that, you're naturally building trust. And that is the long game to retain customers. Information management. This is all of your databases, your information on clients, and internal files. The one who owns the list wins. So ensuring that all of your customer details are current and accurate. It's amazing how many businesses I coach that want to sell. I ask them, what's the quality of your customer list? And they'll say, oh, I haven't updated it ever. We never follow up on that. Well, me as a potential buyer, I'm going to knock that client list down by at least 50% because there's no value if it's not current. So that information is priceless. Then we have employee management. So this is usually where systems are in place because our employees are our biggest asset or our biggest liability. So HR policies, job descriptions, skill development, performance reviews, and that in-house mentorship program. Given the unique and diverse workplace that we're dealing with now, we need to all play nice in the sandbox and work well and be respectful and considerate. For the first time ever, we have 5 generations, 120 plus cultures, and 2 plus gender identifiers. So how do we respect and appreciate and apply everyone's mind, because we all have different ways of doing things, into our workplace? So this is a big component of building a respectful workplace, having civility embedded in your business, and making sure you have a place where people want to be and they thrive, because that makes your business better and worth more to you and others. Operations. Most people think that this is the only category of systems management. Well, this is how you actually do everything that you do in your business. So again, a separate binder of how you do item X, how you make a great cup of coffee, how you make a latte. People think it's easy. It's an art and a science, and there's skill. My binders were probably 3 inches tall, and there were 5 of them just for a coffee shop. So in your business, you want to do the same thing. The last system is financial management. Bookkeeping, accounting, reviews, benchmarks, budgets, spending patterns, finance, and investments. Without a smart system in place, your business may be growing a bit, but actually costing you more at the same time. Most entrepreneurs don't know their numbers. Most people don't like math, right? So they let the accountants and the bookkeepers deal with that, and then they manage the rest somewhat. But you do have to pay attention to those numbers. So we see sales growing year over year, but we also, if we slide down that income statement, we see that sales are increasing by 30% year over year, but weirdly, my net income is actually a negative. How does that happen? Well, again, the numbers don't lie, so we have to dive deep. We have to figure out what is the story behind those numbers. So as a business advisor asking the tough questions, I go back to the question, are you busy being busy, or are you busy being profitable? And that usually sets a moment of silence and reflection, and hopefully a call to action to make things change. When I say those words and the result is negative, it's just showing me that your business model right now is not working for you. It's actually working against you. All the time, energy, and money that you put in is not getting the results. So what do we need to do? Again, it's about putting time in to develop those systems. So what levels of systems do we need? There's daily operating systems, special operating systems, and troubleshooting. So walking through the business with fresh eyes, I'm going to look at how do I work my business every day. If I had to schedule a full calendar from the moment we're open to the moment we're closed, plus the over and above hours that every entrepreneur puts in, because it is not a 9-to-5 job, or at least not from my experience. So I'm going to take into account the ebb and flow of the days of the week, the month, and the business cycle. So what do I need to achieve on a daily basis and lock it in? And set the priorities, what are absolutes, and then what are nice to-dos. So by doing that, we can set up a system. Often clients will go, Colleen, I do not have time for social media. It just doesn't fit in my day. I'm not going to do Facebook and Instagram. I can't. Do you have time for an hour coffee in the morning? Then I bet you we can schedule an hour to pre-launch some of those social media content pieces, or get back to those emails, or develop something. So again, the excuses fly away because now we have a system in place. So every morning, I'm an early riser, thankfully. So when I come in, my store was open, my coffee shop, 7 a.m. to midnight, 364 days of the year. And for the first 2 years, I opened my store every day. I was actually there at 5 a.m. But I programmed my day to maximize it once I had systems. So I knew what needed to get done so I could step out and away from the daily management of it. So here we're going to make those checklists and do up some to-do lists. Next, we're going to look at the special operating systems. There are always deviations from the norm. No system is ever perfect and ever done. There will always be an exception to the rule or a special customer or a special consideration. And that's totally fine. You have to be flexible with your systems and apply alterations as you need. But with special considerations, you need to clearly communicate that. So every day we do this, but today, or for this one customer, this is the approach and this is how we're going to do it. So you, the business owner, is communicating that to your staff, and the staff are following through with the customer. Because nothing's worse than you negotiating a special deal for a customer. The customer comes in to activate, and then there's some friction. Someone doesn't know something, and then there's an issue. And every time there's an issue or inconsistency, your system and your business breaks. So if I don't have a great experience and I have a really bad altercation with the staff member, that one experience might evaporate the potentiality of me ever coming back. And the next thing I'm going to go is I'm going to go online, and I'm somewhat anonymous online. I'm going to post my comment or my experience and maybe post a review. And people pay attention to those reviews. So that one hiccup just undid all the great marketing, all the great effort. The last system that you want to consider is troubleshooting. So these are those unplanned, irregular happenings that happen. So you can set up all the systems, program and index the binders, and then something happens. No one, as an example, no one predicted COVID. So businesses had to create all new systems and ways of doing things to address government issues, government regulations, safety for their staff and customers, and then figure out how that business was going to function and if it could even function. So with systems, you want to develop backup plans for the backup plans. If this happens, what am I going to do and how am I going to deal with it? Again, the goal is to get all the strategies, all the tools, all the resources out of your brain, put it on paper. This keeps everyone on the same page, and it actually frees up your RAM for other important matters. So think through the process of every transaction and interaction that you might have with a customer. And a customer is internal, your staff and your management teams, as well as external, those customers who actually pay for what you have to offer. So we're just over an hour into it. I could talk about this all day long. So maybe I'll take a pause and see if we can answer one or two questions if they've popped up. And if not, we can just continue onwards and we can save it to the end, whatever you prefer.
Є запитання, але
Yes, Colleen, we have some questions, but I think that I would like to start from the grateful comment from one of our participants, that she said that it's very important for her that in your presentation you say about the weak points of the businesses and you provide the practical advice of how to handle that. So thank you very much for that. And now I will turn into questions. And before that, I also would like to say that you can ask the questions not only in the chat box in Zoom, you can also have the question voiced out. If you would like to ask the question by voice, you can turn on your microphone and turn on your video. It will be a pleasure for us to see you and hear you. Before you ask the question, please raise your hand, push the button that says raise your hand, and you can find this button, raise hand button, under the participants menu at the lower bar of your screen. So in the participants menu, you can see there is the blue hand like this. We will pass the floor to you. But now let's check the questions that we had in the chat box. What kind of informational resources provide you to keep the business systems under control?
All right, I need that. It didn't translate.
Colleen, can you hear me right now? Are you in English channel? So once again, Colleen, can you hear me right now? What are the informational resources that provide you the best control for your business systems?
And it was still in Ukrainian, so I'm not sure why the translation's not working.
Colleen, change please your channel on English. On globe mark, please choose English.
I was in English. I'm
Colleen,
gonna have to
can
get
you?
my screen and then go back and see if it switched back.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on.
Можливо, потрібно.
Okay.
Maybe, yes, you should turn on the English channel. Okay, so can you hear me right now?
I can hear you now, and
Perfect.
for some reason it switched off, so I apologize. So could we repeat that again for the third time? I'm sorry.
Yes, of course. Like, what kind of informational resources provide you the best opportunity to control the business systems?
So part of it, and we're going to continue and highlight how to assess, how to develop systems, but in your business, you need to know what critical information you need to make your system work. So what information on a daily, weekly basis do you need to glean from the marketplace, from your competitors, from your customers, and from yourself to make your business frictionless so that you don't have to think so hard? So what does that look like for you? If I was a sales rep, I might want to know everything about my competitors and continually do an audit of what they're offering, what they do, what their price points are, and gather all of that knowledge in one hub so that I can share it with other people on the team, but always have that as a puzzle piece in my brain so I can make smarter decisions. So step one for you might be, what do I need to absolutely know to be the best leader and best employee person model for my business? And while doing that, understanding what am I missing? What are the questions that always come up that I have no clue how to answer? And then find that data. It's kind of like being a private investigator, because you have to be able to know what questions you're going to need. You don't know what you don't know. So sometimes, again, as a business advisor, clients will come to me going, Colleen, I've sat in on your seminar. You said systems are amazing, but I have no idea what that means for my business. Sometimes it's just me asking you one question to unravel those layers of the onion. And that would be my first step. I would reach out, because you're so busy in your business and you have one mindset. All it takes is someone to go, oh, how about this? And you're like, oh my, I've never thought of that. How could that never have populated in my brain? And it's amazing what people pull out of you. So sometimes just having a conversation and going, what's your experience with my business? And what am I failing on? Ask the hard questions. Don't just stick at the top, the easy ones where everybody's, you know, all nice and positive. But every time I do a seminar, I really want to know what I didn't do for you. I want to know is there any area that I missed the mark on? So sometimes when I'm developing systems with those 3 brains, I go to them and I ask questions. I ask my team, are you really happy in your job? Or what's struggling? Like what's not making you happy? So I do problem and solution all day long. So I hope that answered the question and gave a little bit more thought. And as we go through the next few slides, we'll start putting steps in process for you to actually develop your own systems. Because after I'm gone, I'm hopefully encouraging you to systemize everything and give you the roadmap to do that. So thank you very much for that question, and I apologize for that little hiccup. It toggled back to the normal setting. So, okay, we'll keep the questions coming. Just keep sending them in as they come, and I'm going to save some time at the end. So we'll go through the content, add a few more layers of thinking to the brains, and then hopefully you'll have a ton of questions for me, because that's what I love. So I'm going to go back to share mode. And I'm just making sure that it pops up on the system. Okay. So this was a handout that I created specifically for this session. Again, I talk about this all day long, but I didn't have a system developed to help entrepreneurs walk through it. So this is my example of my brain now on paper. So hopefully you got this when you registered, and or if you didn't, this download is going to be accessible to you so that you can start working through the process. So as I go through, I'm going to start at the 12 o'clock position, and we're going to start at square one. So similar to the question that I just answered, I'm going to start identifying issues. So when I identify issues, I'm looking for constraints, waste, and bottlenecks. So depending on where you're at in your business, this portion might have you thinking in advance of what are some potential issues I might have, and or if you're already established, you might be thinking, oh my, that is a bottleneck, that is a limitation, problem, challenge. And also when I'm thinking about systems, I'm also looking at what are things that are really working well. And if it's working well in this one area, how can I make it work well in all areas? So what does that take, what forms does that happen in my business? So it's not always just looking for problems. I try and limit problems because I want to be in success mode. And I don't want to be the negative Nelly who's always making course corrections. I need to do it, but once you develop systems, you're going to realize more opportunities and ways to always make it just work better. So, and I should also point out that weaknesses should not be a failure. It is an opportunity to learn how to make your business better. So when I'm pointing out, you know, this is a hiccup to my staff, I'm not, you know, smacking them on their hand and chastising them. I'm like, congratulations, thank you for finding a problem in our system, and now we're going to find a way to make it better. You just saved the company hundreds, thousands of dollars by having your eyes wide open and having a different set of eyes than me, the business owner, when I developed the systems. So in this phase of issue management, I'm going to look at what issues happen on a regular basis. What issues take considerable amount of time and are a constant distraction to me. When do I get interrupted the most? Because that's taking me out of flow mode. There's a research study that says every time you get interrupted from your work, on average, it takes an hour or more to find your groove again. So I've just lost a ton of time with all the interruptions that hit my door if I didn't have systems. What elements of my business are a constant strain or sense of frustration to me? And essentially, the one question for most entrepreneurs is, what keeps you up at night? Because when I owned my business, I never really shut off, which was me. But what kept me up at night? What was I worrying about the most? That's what I want to solve the problem. So what's holding you back from achieving your goals and your objectives? In this section, what constantly has you sucked back in working on your business rather than achieving those objectives and always getting sucked into being the coffee barista or the frontline person who's dealing with the customer? You hire employees to do that. So why are you always getting sucked back in? What are the constraints of your business? Not enough money, not enough of the right skills, not enough resources or tools, not the right people. Maybe we need new people or different talent. We don't have the right equipment, and or sales are not manifesting. So if those are the issues, what in the matrix needs to be fixed? And how can we maximize our time, energy, and money? Because those are the three most important resources. Do we have areas of waste, spoilage, redundancy, or rework? And if you do, why is that? So again, we're not going on the surface, we're diving deep to get to the root cause of the problem. So what is limiting your capacity? If you are spending 10 hours a day plus, adrenaline and drive and determination will only take you so far. Eventually, you're not going to have enough hours in the day, you're going to be exhausted, and the system will still be broken. So we need to figure out those issues, because that's where problem solving starts. And then we need to understand the bottlenecks. So bottlenecks refer to a flow or task that gets impaired or even stops your business. So I'm going to ask that poll number 4 be launched, and we're going to do another self-assessment in your business, operation, corporation, not-for-profit. Which are your bottlenecks? So a bottleneck can be minor or severe. So keep in mind, the minor ones should be a quick fix, but the major ones might need a complete overhaul. So in the poll, we've outlined the bottlenecks. So the bottlenecks could be your equipment, your processes, your people, your environment or culture, the management team, or the business owner. So when you think about what's not working really well, sometimes this is a sobering question. Thankfully, we're all anonymous here. So you can multiple choice selection. What are the bottlenecks in your business? And when I owned my businesses, often it's all of them. But then I need to look at the priorities, which is the biggest concern. So I'll give you a few moments. And this is something that I always have in front of me, because I'm always looking every day at my processes and systems and trying to figure out how I can work smarter and not harder. So once the polls get launched and we can see where we're at, I like doing these because it gives me, it's kind of like a guessing game of who's in the room and what are the challenges and how can I offer solutions today to help you. And once they are registered, so I'll just share another story. For me, my bottleneck was the people. I had 2 shifts of people, a day shift and a night shift. Again, we were open from 7 a.m. to midnight. I would typically be there for the first while from 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. or 8 p.m. I would literally be driving out of the driveway and my cell phone would already be going with a question. And I had already put in a 12-hour day. So I needed to better educate and better train my people. So if we can launch the results, that would be ideal. So in that scenario, okay, great. So faulty processes. So we might have systems in place right now, but even though we have systems, are everyone following them? Do people know what the systems are? And do we have someone administering and monitoring that process? People, absolutely. Everyone has a different brain. We hired them for a talent, but are they doing their best job? Do we have them in the right slot? Or maybe they might better serve us in a different position. And or maybe sometimes it's time for them to transition. Equipment, of course. And I find it management, it could be a limiting factor. And in my story, often the main bottleneck in business is the business owner, because they are working so hard on making this work that they forgot some of the layers. So needing to be hands-on with the management and the business owners, needing to be hands-on all the time at every step is a growth limiter. One needs to move from micromanaging to macromanaging and getting your people to work the system so that we can all be more efficient. It's a domino effect, and when it happens, it is bliss. So again, when we talk about bottlenecks, we're asking what is causing our longer wait times, our out of stock, our scheduling nightmares, our fall in employee morale, maybe because they're working longer hours and they don't feel valued. What's raising our customer complaints? And knowing, for me at times, when I knew I needed systems, it was amazing how many times, sometimes I didn't even want to show up to my business because it wasn't working as well as I wanted or it should, and it was chaos. So I knew that I needed to fix something. So moving on, thank you for all participating in that poll. Moving on, now we're going to look at the consequences. So if the issues happen, how do they impact our business? So how does it impact our customers, our staff, and me, the business owner, or us, the business owners? So most often when we identify an issue, we put a quick fix, a Band-Aid on it, and we move on. But we really don't go that one layer deeper and figure out how it impacts all of those three brains in our business. So when we put the quick Band-Aid on things, we did not solve the problem. It will happen again, and it might be more severe. So each time something happens, we need to find a more elaborate, more clear, detailed problem solution. If the problem surfaces again and again, it is no longer an outlier. It is a problem that is stressing your resources. The sneaky thing about issues, if you're not looking for them and you're not connecting the dots, they can go unrecognized for years. They are really the cancer cell that eventually could take down your business if left untreated. So if that problem, issue, and number one happens, how does it impact my customer? Are the customer needs still being met? Can the customer still easily access all of my products and services? Do the customers clearly understand what the company offers? How do I track the value of my customer? If these problems happen, are my customers spending less money or less time with me? Or have they totally moved on? What is the likelihood of a repeat purchase? So we spent all that money on marketing, we got them in the store. If we didn't woo them and have a wow experience, what's the likelihood of retaining them? And what's the impression? So every time they walk through the experience, have those issues, either a success or a loss, how does that impact our brand, our staff, and the company? Then we want to look at, if these problems happen, how does it impact my staff? If their day is full of problems and high stress, how does that affect morale, engagement, their confidence, their level of trust in the company, the management team, and the business owner? Do we see, if these problems happen, do we see an impact on their productivity and performance? Do we see a change in their perceived safety, physical, emotional, and job security? Are they still loyal to us? Or has their level of frustration reached a point where they're already considering if they're going to leave? In civility training, we call that presenteeism. I have a person, an employee, who shows up to work, is there in body, but is totally not applying the systems, is not the best role model of my brand, and they're already looking for that next alternative on your dime. Some of them are actually looking for different jobs on your dime, which is scary. But you as the business owner, you have to pay attention to this because it happens more times than you think. And then we also need to see the level of collaboration. If these problems happen, are you starting to see silos happen? So if there's problems in one category, I am going to stay as far away from that because I just want to do my thing, and what I do doesn't impact everyone else. That's another red flag that you have problems. And then I'm looking at the impact of the business. So if those consequences of bottlenecks, waste, and inefficiencies happen, what is that doing to my business? Impacts on cash flow. My net profit is turning into a net loss. I have high attrition rates in customers and staff. I have to reactivate and convince people to work with me, buy from me, show up to work. And then maybe I need to change my benchmarks, my goals, my growth plans. Maybe the model that I had in place no longer applies. Systems, customer needs have changed, etc. And now I really have to dive deep and do some mitigation. So the next piece is where the fun happens. So this is where we're going to build, manage, and develop all of our systems. So again, we need to build systems to mitigate those problems, address the needs of the customer, the employee, and the business owner, and set them in play. So we're going to develop processes, tools, people, and strategies to develop really great systems. Always keep in mind that the outcome that you desire, so be clear on that, and then reverse engineer it. When we reverse engineer, we know what our goal is. Now, what do we need to have in place? What do we need to be, do, or have to get that? So that's the tactical piece, the processes that need to be in place to reach our goals. So here we're going to look at adjustments. If we already have systems in place, how do we need to tweak them to make them better? And then we're going to look at that tapestry and figure out, if I change this, how does it impact all of those other departments, the 8 different departments or systems that we have set up? And then we're always going to look for even 1% improvements. So when we're going to make all these improvements and adjustments, we need to clearly communicate that to everyone. And with change, it's not always welcome and well received. So the more transparent you can be and the more open with your communication, the systems will work better. Clear communications, clear directions, and messaging will hopefully provide a clear understanding of the new way of doing things at our workplace. In doing that, we need to set up training, work the system, and then train the people. Remember, when building business systems, we will want to outline all the steps and make sure nothing is missed. So we might have to go over these systems a few times. Understanding what our priorities are, and then set the sequence to make sure that we get the result that we expected. Remember that people come and go, so those systems have to remain intact and applicable even when things change and when people change. This will allow you to fill the void of someone who goes into a new position or transitions. And remember that everything needs to be documented. Again, capture it in real time. And set and outline clear routines that need to be applied regardless of who is doing the activity. So in small and medium-sized businesses, one element, one system that people forget is cross-training. Cross-training increases a business's adaptability. It is important to have people trained and have backup for those roles. So what if someone is absent on an extended sick leave, decides to quit, and what happens in that role? Will the business stop, or will it be placed on hold until you can fill that gap? This scenario costs businesses time and energy and adds frustration because usually customer needs are not being met. Investing in skill development and knowledge transfer will ensure that there are limited hiccups in the system because of your people. Ensuring that everyone knows that their work matters, and if they do not do X, how it will impact others. Again, that's the accountability piece. So once we have the systems all ironed out and we did the training and tested it out, Some individuals, some businesses think, oh, we're done. We can shelve it, everything will be good. Well, we're missing that feedback loop. So right now, we are not done. We are at the 90-mile mark in a 100-mile race. So keep going, keep running. Track and measure. Set the system in motion and collect that data, that information that we're going to sift and sort, and monitor and test. So you have the process in place, you're going to put it out there, and then we're going to see if it works. So we actually have to have benchmarks to know, is it getting better or is it getting worse? Peter Drucker, one of his quotes, what gets measured gets managed, and I'll add, improved and done. So again, by monitoring your systems, and there is no such thing as set it and forget it. That does not work in systems management and or business. You constantly have to engage, reflect, and tweak it again. Because in business, there is no such thing as status quo. Either you're growing, increasing capacity, or you're slowly drifting downwards, losing customers, losing sales, losing profit margin, your marketing's not working. So once you go on that spiral, it's important to catch yourself as fast as possible because it costs a lot of money to spiral back up. So once we get all of the systems working, we're going to track the process and see if we actually need to rework. So this is the flow chart to get the macro understanding. And now I'm actually going to go through our next steps. So where do I start and what tips and tricks do I need at every step? So first, we're going to analyze the company. This goes back to that brilliant question of what information do I need to get? Well, do a needs assessment and an audit of how your business is working. Don't put blinders on, because in every business, I can find issues, even with the best systems in place. So find out where your business is sluggish or falling apart. And also put a big check mark in where you're being a superstar, because that's an area that's working. So what can I learn from that? Then I'm going to dive deeper. Again, from that needs assessment, I'm going to look at my successes, my challenges, and when am I having a meltdown? Here at the Women's Enterprise Centre, we're processing so much data right now and clients because of COVID, trying to help them through the process. I can tell when my staff is maxed out. We joke because we have a high psi alert. People are just sighing every moment because they're processing too much information. So we have programmed little timeouts just to help manage the intensity of our work. But that's because I'm always listening, watching, and seeing how everyone manages. So being a great leader, you have to have everything open and lead with your heart as well, because you have to be empathetic. You have to empower your staff and your customers to keep the engine going. So in this piece of the puzzle, when you hear stories going on, I encourage you to look for a common denominator. So in all of the problems that you see, what is the common denominator? So that might help you understand where things are happening and why it's happening. Then number 3, we're going to sketch out the processes and the linkages. We're going to outline all the steps, and then we're going to take each task and activity and work out however many steps it is. Again, it could be as simple as a paragraph on how to answer the phone, or how we communicate, what's appropriate behavior and appropriate messaging. So again, this is where the document starts to happen. Then number 4, we're going to build the system. We're going to begin with the desired outcomes, and then we're going to reverse the steps and program the people and the decisions that need to be made. We're going to outline what will make it effective, and then also program, okay, this might happen, so what's the potential bottleneck? And we're going to work that into the systems. We're going to eliminate redundancy and duplication, and we're going to look for ways to improve, automate, and add technology, because that makes us move faster and better and sets that guideline for monitoring. So when we design the system, we're going to get the developer to develop all the tips, steps, and guidelines, and again, document on paper. Then we're going to test run it with our staff. So we do an in-house test. We bring our team to the table with the process, and then we let them work through it and see, because my brilliant ideas might not work for every individual. That's why I add some layers in a safe space to make sure that what I said is clear, concise, understood, and actionable. So once we get this in play, we have to allow for modifications. This process has to be a two-way. It can't be a dictatorship. This is the only way we're going to do it, and not taking into account little nuances of different manners, behaviors, and ways of doing things. When I did my systems, I did my best, and then I launched it to my staff, and it was amazing how my staff actually made it so much better, because my brain only works one way. And then I got 4 more perspectives, and we made the systems better. So again, we're looking for open dialogue, and that gets buy-in from your staff members as well. Then once we've, again, documented it again, made the improvements, put the processes in a binder or an electronic file, we're going to activate the system, and we're going to go live. We're going to launch it to the public, we're going to launch it to our customers, and see their reactions, the application of it, and then we're going to see the results. So here we're going to test, monitor, and reevaluate. So that was that last leg of the bubble. From that, when we look at the data, we're going to track efficiencies and trace imperfections. We're going to continue to let the system work, and then we're going to see how we can make it better, or if maybe that system is totally broken for our customers, because that's not how they want to engage. So again, a success, we found out how not to do it. And then maybe in our next beta, we're going to get a focus group and ask our customers to help us reverse engineer it. So when we refine and review the last step, again, it's not set it and forget it. In certain systems, we might reevaluate things weekly, monthly. We might have a few systems that we can review once a year, maybe like an HR policy, just to update it and get all the staff to sign off. And remember, this is an ongoing process. I've been in business, several different businesses in overtime, and every year I pull those binders and I reinsert new, better ways of doing things. And it's important to do those random checks, because that also shows your staff that you are monitoring things. And we're going to do random checks to make sure that everything's moving smoothly. Other things we want to consider is looking for obsolescence, things that no longer need a system. Ditch it and move on. How many times have you been in an organization and people go, Colleen, I have 2 systems here. I don't know which one to use. One is 10 years old that some of the people are still using, and the new one is only being used by a select few. So again, make sure there is only one model, excuse me, one model, and put it in play. We're going to look for duplication. We're going to look for maybe streamlining systems to make two models or two ways into one to increase our efficiency. And then we're also going to look for those unexpected outcomes, because the craziest things happen that you didn't expect. And when you add employees and customers, it's amazing how the system can break like that. So we're going to look at that as well. So now we're going to put a bow on it. So when we have systems, it's not just a one-layer win. It's a win-win-win. We now have engaged, loyal customers, raving fans. So you've spent all of this time and energy, and now you've created a frictionless system where customers want to be your promoter of your business. They've had a wow experience, and now they're going to give you reviews and say, this is the only company that I work with. I want to be in the top 3 when I ask for a referral for a florist, a printing company, a spa, hair salon, whatever that might be. I want to be in their top 3. So I want to wow my customers, and I do that with systems. The next one is you're going to be having empowered, motivated employees. You have unlocked the employee's true potential. Your team of employees want to play full out, they want to contribute, and they are fully energized. They've got a spring in their step. Everyone is clear on the job and the roles, and now they know exactly how to do everything. So now their only focus is to motivate customers to buy more, interact better with customers, and actually collaborate amongst each other to get things done faster with a full team synergy. And with that, you become an employer of choice by creating a positive, sustainable, and thriving work environment. People will want to work with you. They will prospect you, so you don't have to advertise. And that happens all the time with my key entrepreneurs that are systemized and savvy and have a really open mindset to building a culture. And lastly, and most importantly, is you, the business owner. You get to focus on what truly energizes you. You have additional capacity to focus on creativity and innovation and growth. And your brain power is not being constantly sucked by disturbances. You're really building momentum. All of the parts and pieces and the people are moving in the right direction. You gain leverage, which is the key to scaling up. True leveraging is truly maximized when you systemize, automate, and delegate. You gain power of leveraging and can do so much more. The ultimate business system has the business owner taken out of the day-to-day operations. This promotion allows you to focus on the higher value element of strategy and growth plans and keeps the business evolving and maintaining your competitive edge. All of a sudden, you have gained control over your time, day, and focus. Your role as the business owner revolves around developing systems, delegating, and trusting your staff to figure it out, and most importantly, get out of the way. That's why you have all these brilliant people around you. If I have not said this enough in the presentation, systems will change your business and change your life. This is where I do the happy dance because I see it all the time. And I wanted to close with this one comment. I found this and in one of the books that I have, and it's, I have it here, Atomic Habits. It's a personal development book, but it starts off with systems. Products make you money, but it's systems that are the gateway to financial freedom. So a business without systems is not going to get you the wealth creation, the financial freedom, and the retirement plan that you want, because you will be the business still. So if you do that one thing in all of the elements of your business, it's not going to happen overnight. But when you do, oh my, things just sing. So I hope that you've received incredible value, insight, and just a few golden nuggets of trigger words and things to do. Right now, I'd love to open, I know we have some questions. So I have some scenarios if we don't have enough questions, and or I'd be happy, I could stay here for quite some time and just answer your questions, and I'd love to hear your feedback. So I'm going to turn over the floor to the moderators, and hopefully questions are flying in. Thank you very much. And I'm going to stop my share so we can just view each other.
Дякую, Колін.
Thank you, Colleen. And we have some questions in the chat box.
Яка система оподаткування
The question is, what is the taxes system for businesses in Canada, and why it can be challenging for Ukrainians?
What is the tax system? What system are we looking for?
Система оподаткування
Oh. Yes, the system for the taxing, for the fiscal system for the businesses in Canada. What is the taxing system? Yeah, the taxes, and why it is not applicable for Ukraine.
Okay.
Or maybe
yeah.
Maybe Tatiana Tkutenko, who has answered this, asked this question. Maybe you will clarify it. Yes, what I wanted to ask, it's not that like why you believe, like for the Canadians, what you think about your taxes system, because every system that gives you opportunities and then it takes away the opportunities to develop business in the more progressive way. And I do believe that the Canadians and the women who are the entrepreneurs and in businesses in Canada, I do believe they face these challenges. So that is why I wanted to ask you, what is the business, what are the taxes for businesses in Canada? What is the system of taxation? And for you, as you know, as a person in the businesses, what are your concerns about the Canadian taxation system, whether it stimulates or it pushes down the development of businesses and development the women-led businesses, for example?
That is a great question. I spend my two niches here at the center is system development and empowering women worldwide to really understand financial literacy. Some of the challenges, it's not necessarily with our taxation system. There definitely are hiccups. Number one, understanding your numbers. And before you start or have started your business, you want to know the sales. So doing those financial projections on a typical business plans, when we help people develop, we do a detailed business plan and 2 years of monthly financial projections, cash flow budget, and income statement. The reason we do it monthly is because we want to see the ebb and flow of how your business is going to operate. So answering the question, because government regulations are what they are, we all get taxed and we have to apply certain rules, but given those things I can't control, which is the taxation system, what can I control in my business? So what do I need to develop from a product or service level to get the maximum sales with the minimum expenses, applying our taxes to make the most money? So finding the right niche with the highest demand so that I don't have to worry so much on the taxation piece. With that caveat, I will say all entrepreneurs should have a really great accountant and bookkeeper on their team. Because if you do not understand your numbers and you do not pay attention to your numbers, yes, you will incur taxes, but if you're operating at a net loss, your net taxes are going to be low. So that taxes should not be your focus. What should be your priority is finding out to make your business the most efficient and in the highest demand and outperform your competitor. Because then you're not focusing, and I'll say the small stuff, which is taxes. It is a big thing, but understanding all of that. Because if you're going to have to force your business model to work, it's exhausting. And you know, your stick-to-itiveness to make it turn around and do those giant leaps will be compromised. So I hope that helped shed some light on that question. Any other questions?
Дякую. Можна, я перепрошую, запитаю ще вас в продовження?
Yes, maybe I can also continue in this question, and based on the answer that you have provided. You've also mentioned the financial literacy. Can you please tell us, in your opinion, when you should start teaching, not just start teaching yourself, but the population overall, when you should teach the people with a general financial literacy to the population, not even for the business owners, because we have this kind of discipline in our universities. We don't have it in school. I know that this kind of programs have been developed. How did you deal with that? And what is your opinion? When should we start to teach people and children the financial literacy?
Oh, this is one of my topics. So I teach at the universities and the colleges as well, and I have my commerce degree. I'm not saying that to impress, but it is amazing and alarming that I went 4 years through commerce and they never taught me anything about basic financial management on a personal level or my business level, and how important your credit score is to everything. Because try and get money from a bank if you have a poor credit score. I teach a 3-hour class on credit, because it's the universal system that kind of gets assessed. And my students, after spending a full year with them, and I do the feedback at the end of the year, that is the one piece of the puzzle, financial literacy and credit management, that they say that was the best piece that I offered them the entire year. So going back to the point, when should it start? We need to teach our kids as early as possible. In particular now, given that we are a plastic society, 80% of transactions are made on your Visa or your debit cards. And now with TAP, if you put your card on the payment processing, it just zaps money out of your account. If we polled how many people actually reconcile their personal and business account on a monthly basis, the numbers would be staggering. Most people have no idea how much money they spend or overspend on a monthly basis. I have a 5-year-old niece who is, I'm teaching, we have a piggy bank, and she knows if she wants certain things, she needs to pull it out of her savings account, and she has to pay money. So seeing the physical, and then she can see how much withdrawals out of her account. Here in Canada, we are implementing financial literacy back into the schools, because we see that as higher debt loads are worldwide. This is one key component that needs to be taught. And same thing with math. People's ability to do math has diminished over the years because of different ways of doing math, and that's a whole lecture on its own. So I think we have to refocus on the basics and relearn that, because here in Canada, if you have a low beacon score and limited net worth and a high debt load, you're gonna have to bootstrap to try and start your business. So without that key component, you're already struggling. to find ways to make your business work. So we spend a lot of time on our financial templates. We teach a lot on financial assessments, and if you got a loan through the center, we require all of our entrepreneurs to do loan aftercare, meaning every month since they open, they must meet with a business advisor, and eventually they must be able to tell us what their income statements and their balance sheet and their cash flow budgets are telling them, not relying on the accountants to say, oh, they have a positive net income. But then a few days later, they're calling me going, Colleen, I have payroll, taxes, and my rent is due and I have no money in the bank account. How can my accountant say that everything is amazing? I have a net income of 30,000, but yet I don't have money in the bank. So understanding those two different brains, the accountant brain versus the management brain, is paramount in entrepreneurship. So I hope that answered that question and gave you insight on my perspective.
Так, дякую, відповіли. Ви просто заставили мене
Yes,
усміхнутися.
thank you very much. You just made me smile when you have been explaining about your experience of educating and studying, because like when you have spoken about your experience in teaching in your university, and I have compared it that that's everything's not that bad in Ukraine. And I just wanted to add up to that, saying that, you know, teaching, when the practitioners, they teach, the people who have been in businesses, the people who own the businesses, I do believe that this is the highest quality education that can be provided, and I think you can agree with that also. Thank you very much for your answers.
Thank you.
Можна переходити до наступного запитання?
So I think we can get to the next question. Yes, please. So how should we deal with the lack of the desire for our employees to change something in the course of their work?
That's always a loaded question. I think sometimes it is disclosing to the employees exactly the state of affairs. If your business is not working well and you put the game face on and you're pretending, you're actually doing everyone a disservice. And sometimes the current staff that got you to the position that you are might not be the right team. So I believe in full transparency. Again, if I own a business, I need to want to be there. Because at the end of the day, I'm accountable for providing all of these people jobs, and it's my reputation to my customers. So I have the biggest stake in the game, but I also realize I can't do it alone. So I need a good, excellent team that is going to work with me and not against me. And sometimes it's having those fierce conversation or crucial conversations and outlining, maybe it's just a segment of your staff, or maybe it's one that is affecting the mentality or the mindset of the group. So again, going to that needs assessment, identifying what are the problems, why can I not make change, why are they fighting me? Sometimes it's about connecting the dots and go, look, we've been doing it this way. We've been doing it for 5 years now, and I now realize that it isn't working. And every time we do it this way, we're actually getting worse off. And I can't afford to continue this. So we're going to reboot, we're going to re-implement new ways and make it better. So I'm hoping you're on board with me. If not, then that's a different conversation. But I find from every generation that I'm talking to, in particular the millennials, they want transparency. They want to understand, so it's not it's my way or the highway or my rules. It's no, we're doing this because of this, and this is the outcomes that we want. So as you in the employee role, I'm asking you to monitor this provide me feedback so they have a bit more say. You ultimately have the last say, but having that in motion can trigger change. And as well, sometimes, sadly, we just have to, certain people will always resist, and maybe they're not the right people to be in that seat at this moment. And for me as well, just with my clients who don't like confrontation, sometimes as a business advisor, I will work with them in their business, and I'll take one for the team, and I will highlight the problems, the challenges, the new systems we're putting in place. And when it comes from my mouth, because I'm a third party and I don't know all the nuances, even though I do through the business owners, it's more well received, and then we have an action plan. Because if they want to get angry or debate with me, then that allows the entrepreneur, the business owner, to step away. So that's where the business advisors, coaches, etc., third-party specialists could really help you with change. So I hope that helped answer the question.
Дякую. Наступне запитання.
Thank you very much. The next question also an interesting one. So how formalized and how detailed should the operational system in the businesses be?
Well, it depends on what your business is. Again, I had a coffee shop, so that is pretty simple, but it's amazing how much detail I actually had to put. So putting it in a Word document with just steps. If you are going to do a registration for this event, how are we going to manage it? And just put all the puzzle pieces together and put it in a document, and then share it with the rest of the team. Sometimes I have clients who do videos because they don't want to write it out. They do a video, and people, new staff members, upload the video and watch it. Because you also have to think about what type of learner you have. Some people will read and retain. Some people need that visual. That's why I do flow charts. Because if I see it, I do mind maps for everything. I dump my brain and I kind of build clusters. Because when I build the clusters, I'm visually retaining it as well. So when I, as an example again, in one of my businesses, I developed the systems, I tested it with my staff. Every new member had to work with me for a week. That way I knew exactly what I told them. They got a sense of who I was as the owner, leader, entrepreneur. Then I would hand them off to my senior staff so they could job shadow and lead alongside. And then they were a full active member. So they had the systems, they had the binders, they had my instruction. So when problems happened, I knew that I had plan A, plan B, plan C. So why are we not getting this yet if there was a problem? So you have to find your own style. And again, I set the tone from early on. When I owned my business, I never, ever, ever treat someone like a transaction. And people could go for coffee anywhere. You can go to the gas stations, Starbucks, you know, all those others. But I built a mom and pop franchise because I believed, I'm a small town kid. When I moved to the city, I lost that connection. So I taught my staff to always treat the person like a person, sell the coffee, get the money, of course, because we need to keep the doors open, but it was all about relationships. And I built that relationship in my training process as well. So my staff knew exactly who I was, what I stood for, my character and my integrity and my approach. So when I had to police my staff, it was rare. In my coffee shop, I had the same staff for 7 years, which is unheard of. They stayed with me as they went through their university, and they stayed with me after. But it was because I had systems and I allowed them to really connect with the customer. So that worked for me. So you need to define your own culture and your own way. So hopefully everybody applies that philosophy. So I hope that helped you.
Дуже дякую. Можна ще наступне запитання?
Thank you very much. Can we have another question?
Sure. I could stay here all day, but you guys regulate the time, so.
Ми трошки перебираємо час, але я думаю, пане
So
Костянтине.
we slightly took a little bit more time than we promised, but if Costa says we're okay with time, that we can continue a bit. Like, I think it's okay, but I think that we should just like wrap up a little bit. So, okay, so we'll have just one final question and we will wrap up. But I would like to, once again, I would like to ask Tanya, do we have a lot of questions on Facebook?
No,
So, okay, so we will have the questions till chat, from chat. So is it hard to acknowledge your own false thoughts about the perspective of your businesses?
Can you repeat that one more time?
Наскільки складно
Is it
усвідомлювати
hard for you? Is it hard to understand your own false thoughts about the perspective of your businesses? So like, I mean, I guess like what people feel when they understand that their expectations of their businesses were false.
Yeah, that's a hard pill to swallow, because you operate your business, you buy a business, you build a corporation or an organization with the best of intentions. But then when it's put out into play, it's amazing how many things can go wrong. And again, in a coffee shop, I thought that was the easiest thing, but it's amazing how many things did not go according to plan. External factors affected my business. All the hiccups, you're thrown, 10 balls and you have to juggle them all. As small entrepreneurs, having time management and orders of priorities and building a model that actually makes you money. So there's never ever just one problem. And sometimes, depending on the phase or stage of my life, I was the problem. When I first started, like I highlighted, it was my baby. I had so much, I put everything I owned into the business, so it had to work. But I was a micromanager. My staff were not happy when I stayed there all the time. And then when I actually developed the systems and empowered my staff to work the systems and actually improve on them, my staff actually ran the business better than I did. And I could just step away. I opened up several other businesses because it allowed me that time because I had the systems. But it is always hard to go, wow, that was a failure, or wow, that mistake cost me thousands of dollars. The important thing is to learn that that was an error. It cost you money, but now make sure you learned the lesson so you don't replay that story again and again, because that's insanity. Doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results is the definition of insanity. So I'll end off with one piece is not, often entrepreneurs are afraid to ask for help. They will struggle, they will try and figure it out, but I encourage you to get a network of supporters, board of advisors, or a business advisor to go, look, here it is. Put all the cards on the table and go, look, I know it's not working. I don't know what I don't know, so I need your help. Give me your honest opinion. And it's amazing what'll happen because people want to see you succeed. So if you raise your hand and say, I need help, it's amazing how many people will be attracted to that and actually help you become a better business owner and have a better business. So better systems equals a better business overall. So on my last slide deck, and I'm not sure if you guys are getting the slide deck, I had my contact information. You have access to my email and my direct line if you want to call with the time change. Just shoot me any questions after the fact, and I am here to assist you guys any way I can, even though you're across the way. Business is business, and any knowledge or insight can help you. So I'm happy to assist even after this presentation.
Колін, дякуємо вам.
Thank you very much, Colleen. Thank you very much for your presentation. Thank you very much for this very interesting webinar. Dear participants, thank you very much. We've had Colleen Krebs with us, who is one of the manager for the women who are in entrepreneurship. You'll be able to once again check this video in a couple of days. You will receive the link for the Ukrainian and English versions of this webinar. Thank you very much for spending this time with us, and we do believe that this information will be useful for you and useful for your businesses, and you will definitely use it for the further work with your clients, with your employees. And we also would like to invite you to follow our website, our social media, and get engaged with our next events. So thank you once again, Colleen, for this interesting knowledge and experience that you've shared with us.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Thank you to all, and have a great night.
Бажаю всім процвітання. До побачення.
Yes, so let us all have the best of all. Goodbye.